Happy Saturday, happy weekend. Hope that your weekend is filled with grace. This is Father Mark over at Christ Redeemer Catholic Church in Thibodaux, and we are wrapping up our second week in a series entitled Choose to Live. This past week, we together unpacked how we can choose to live in the present moment. And all of that, I think, very beautifully comes together with us actually at Mass this weekend. What I'd like to do today is get you ready for Mass this weekend, as well as give you a preview of where we're going next week in week 3 of our series. Let's first talk about a Mass this weekend. This weekend is the Epiphany of the Lord. And as we proclaim the scriptures at Mass, the gospel reading comes from the Bible, of course, Matthew chapter 2, 1 to 12. And that is a story of the Magi. Those Magi who left their homeland to follow the star that led them to Bethlehem in Judea to find the Savior of the world. It's a beautiful story, and I can't imagine a story that would most capture not only what we talked about in this podcast series this week, but also what we're going to talk about next week. Imagine those 3 wise men, those Magi, as they were walking, how much time they had on their hand and how present to the present moment they must have been, right? Whenever you're taking a long road trip like that, there are no cell phones back then. There's no radios. There's no TV. All they have is time, silence, and each other for conversation. Can you imagine what it would have been like to be on that journey with them and how present to the present moment they must have been? But also imagine this. Those wise men were only on the journey because they were noticing what was happening in the sky. See, God was revealing something to them in the stars. They could have missed it. In fact, we know from the scriptures that Herod missed it. But not these Magi. These Magi were present to the present moment, and they were actually able to see in the present moment what God was doing. And what God was doing in that present moment would eventually change their life. They also, we can only speculate, were in relationship with each other. And that's where we're going next week. Next week, we're going to talk about how we not only need to choose to live in the present moment, but we need to choose to live in relationship. And gosh, that's one of those things that's also, I think, in atrophy these days. The more we get accustomed to relating to each other through a screen, I think the more threatened our relationships are going to be with each other. So next week, we're going to talk about how we can live in relationship with each other. Here's one thing that you might do today, and one thing I would encourage you to do today is actually find the readings for Mass this weekend. You can find those on the internet. If you don't know where to go on the internet, you can simply Google Catholic Bishops Mass Readings. That's going to take you to their website, which is usccb.org. But if you can't remember that, just Google Catholic Bishops Mass Readings. It'll take you to their website. You can read the readings. How about before you hear them proclaimed at Mass, before you get to church this weekend, read the readings so that you're more present to the present moment and where God's going to speak to you. Hope you have a great weekend. Next week, I am excited about next week. We're going to talk about being in relationship with people. And I bet you if you have restored or more fruitful relationships, you would have the best year of your life this year. Come on back, and until we see you next week, God bless you.